Growing controversy this week over a soccer match being planned between Canada's national team and Iran's. Canada Soccer is facing criticism not just for orchestrating the event, but also for allegedly paying Iran's team hundreds of thousands of dollars to participate. The CBC's Ashley Burke is on the story for us. She's in Ottawa. Hi, Ashley. So what do we know about this payment?
Well, Vashi, the head of Iran's soccer team, said that for the first time in more than 2 decades, that Iran is going to be making a profit off of this friendly match. Hamid Astili told Iranian state-affiliated media that Canada Soccer will be paying Iran's Football Federation $400,000 for this game next month in Vancouver on June 5th. And he said that that would be about half of that would be paying for expenses, and about half of it they think that they could earn as a profit. Now, Astili also said that there was negotiations with about 20 other countries that were lower ranking than Iran. And those other countries said, if you want to play a friendly game with us, Iran's going to have to pay, not the other way around. Now, Canada Soccer wouldn't confirm or deny this quoted sum to us, but said that it's standard in international soccer to pay a visiting team a fee for a game like this, a friendly match, and that they were following all protocols. The federal government said that it wasn't consulted about the game, that it did provide $3 million in funding to Canada Soccer for this fiscal year, but the Prime Minister yesterday saying that he's assuring the public that none of those funds are going towards this game.
So there are people who, through your reporting, we know are not happy that this game is going ahead. They've called for it to be canceled. What's their reaction now to learning, again through your reporting, about this payment?
Well, the Conservatives just released a statement saying that it's unacceptable, this game going ahead, and that it should be called off. And they mentioned this $400,000 fee as well, and that the Conservatives say they've been calling on the Liberal government to list Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps as a terrorist organization. Now, the IRGC, there are concerns that there are links to this soccer team. The families of Flight PS752 have raised that as a concern. The IRGC shot down that plane 2 years ago, killing everyone on board, including 85 Canadians and permanent residents. They call this game a slap in the face. And adding to this controversy, the head of Iran's team, Hamid Astili, was photographed last month at a small party. It was a birthday party in Tehran with a man who was wanted by the FBI for trying to allegedly target and kidnap a number of international targets, including 3 Canadians. These are photographs that CBC News has reported on, and a victim at the center of the case told us that the FBI is now looking into if there's a possible connection between the head of Iran's soccer team and this individual wanted by the FBI. A warrant has been out for his arrest for almost a year. Now, today, the head of Iran's soccer team was seen in Iranian media saying that he's still trying to work on the visas to come to Canada, that there could be some complications picking them up in Istanbul because a number of members on the team are military members, are soldiers. And the Prime Minister said yesterday that it's going to be up to border services to decide whether or not the team will be granted those visas or be able to enter this country. But one thing victims of Flight PS752 families say is that if this game does go ahead, that they will be outside the stadium on June 5th protesting it.
Okay, thanks very much, Ashley. The CBC's Ashley Burke. Liberal MP Anthony Housefather has gone a step further than his government and called on Canada Soccer to cancel the game. He joins us now. Mr. Housefather, good to have you back on the program. Thanks for making the time.
Thank you so much, Vashi.
Can you lay out the case for us from your perspective of why the game should be canceled?
We have no diplomatic relations with the Islamic Republic of Iran. It's a country that violates human rights domestically. It sponsors terrorism globally. It calls for the eradication of the state of Israel. I can go on and on about the Islamic Republic of Iran, let alone its shooting down of PS752, killing many Canadian citizens, and not being transparent about what actually occurred. So for me, it's an entire slap in the face to the families of the victims, and to Canadians to have this game. There are umpteen countries. Canada is ranked 51st in the world. Iran is ranked 22nd. There are umpteen other teams that Canada could have used to prepare for the World Cup to have a game with them. And it is entirely unacceptable to me that Canada Soccer chose to ask Iran to come to Canada to have this friendly match.
What about the possibility that they're paying them to do so?
So I think Canada Soccer has an obligation to be transparent what I did personally is reached out to Pascal Saint-Onge, our sports minister. It's been confirmed to me that the contract between Soccer Canada and the government of Canada through Sports Canada would make it impossible for any monies of the government of Canada to be used to pay the Iranians or to pay for this game. In fact, the men's team didn't even qualify for federal funding this year. So at least it's not government funding, but I would say it sounds like a poor business deal if indeed what the Iranians allege is true.
So I just want to circle back to that, because my understanding is, for example, that there's no direct government funding of this match. I think the Prime Minister has made that clear in the 2 instances in which he's replied to questions on this, 2 that I can think of. But that Canada Soccer does get federal funding, period, writ large, right? And you're saying that the Minister of Sports said to you that that they know that the money that is given to Canada Soccer from the federal government, taxpayer money, is not going towards paying Iran for this.
The information I have from the sports ministry is that the contract between Sports Canada and the government of Canada would preclude that from happening, and that there is also a requirement afterwards to be accountable and report back on the expenditure of funds. So my understanding is that government of Canada money is not going towards this game directly or indirectly.
I mean, it sounds as though it's incumbent on Canada Soccer to then, after the fact, show that to the government. Is there any effort, or do you think there should be an effort on the part of the government to say, show us the receipts in advance, kind of thing, like prove to us that this isn't happening, or we're going to withdraw our funding?
Well, I think, again, there's an agreement that would be in place between Sports Canada and Canada Soccer, and both sides would have to respect that agreement. And so if no obligation exists to do that in advance, I just don't think that would be something that would be done. But what I would say is that Canada Soccer has an obligation to everyone here. They have an obligation to Canadians to make sure that the countries they engage with are countries that Canada would be proud to engage with. And whether Canada plays Iran in an international tournament where Canada draws Iran, that's one thing. I'm not saying that they shouldn't play Iran if they're drawn in the World Cup or an international tournament, but to proactively invite Iran here when we have no diplomatic relations with Iran, and when the regime in Iran has such a sordid history, I think it was a poor decision. And I think Sports Canada has an obligation to Canadians to rethink that. And they also have an obligation to their players because we're about to go to the World Cup, which, as an athlete myself, this is a huge thing for Canadian soccer. And Canadians across the country should be proud of their soccer team, should be rooting for their soccer team. And the players and soccer fans in Canada shouldn't be distracted by this gaffe of inviting Iran. So I think that there's one obligation here for Canada Soccer to think about this and to reconsider whether or not they want to play a match with this country.
So far, they haven't indicated that they're going to do so. And I know my colleague Ashley, who's done the reporting on this, is having trouble really getting detailed responses from them. In the absence, and I'll sort of circle back to where I was before, in the absence of Canada Soccer doing what you outlined there, is there a role for the federal government to just pull funding altogether, or to say, we're going to pull it? And I take your point about the contract. I'm not privy to the details of the contract. I haven't seen them all. But it seems to me if the federal government is funding an agency and that agency does things that the federal government is not in agreement with, it is within their abilities to say, okay, we're not going to fund you then. Would that be appropriate here?
I think if no government funds are being spent on this game, I think, again, taking away money from Canada Soccer, for example, our women's national team, which is one of the top teams in the world, would be impacted. Development programs throughout the country and young kids playing soccer would be impacted. So, I'm a sports fan. I've worked with sports federations for a very long time. I don't believe in withdrawing funds from sports federations, but these funds obviously shouldn't be used for the purposes of paying the Iranian national team a profit to come to Canada. And I've been reassured that government funds are not being used for this purpose. And I think in the end result, this is a question for Canada Soccer and the people who run Canada Soccer and the people who are involved in Canada Soccer and elected board of directors to carefully consider when they're choosing who runs Canada Soccer. that is also, it's not necessarily the government that steps in like a big brother. It's the people involved in our soccer federation that should be going to their board and saying, this is inappropriate. We're not happy with the fact that you've invited Iran here.
Okay, I'll leave it there. And I'll mention to you and our viewers, we have certainly requested an interview with the organization. So far, they have either not answered or declined our request. Mr. Housefather, thanks for making the time for this. I appreciate it.
Have a great day. Thank you.
You too. Anthony Housefather is a Liberal MP in Quebec. Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.